That's what scares me, that people are behind this idea that you're going to arrest your political rival.
That's the biggest. Not only that, but you have prosecutors that are getting real creative with the law. And I don't think we want a system like that. And I don't think we want, every time somebody runs for office, because now the Bidens are in trouble. I mean, Hunter Biden's in real trouble here.
Yeah.
And this guy, Devin Archer, said that Biden was on the phone on behalf of his son 20 times. And that was Devin Archer, who's also going to jail. Now, that was Hunter Biden's business partner. And he said he personally witnessed that. And he said that under sworn testimony. There is enough evidence to at least investigate the idea that maybe Biden took a $5 million bribe, whatever the case. But my point about this is the mainstream media, legacy media, gives that almost no attention.
Yeah.
And all you have, I think that the legacy of Donald Trump will be, in some ways, the other side was so hysterical about him being a clear and present danger to the United States. And I'm talking about Republicans, I'm talking about the deep state, I'm talking about Democrats, I'm talking about a lot of people, that they have behaved in an undemocratic, un-American way. They have bent a lot of rules, and they're bringing these indictments, 3 of which now, I think, or 4, in a period of 6 months. I don't think we want a system like that. I don't think you want people running for office and then somebody who's on the other side of the aisle gets real creative with their prosecutorial, with bending the law, figuring out the gray areas of the law. And now you're spending all your money on legal fees.
Especially when there's been no answer to what they did with the Russia collusion hoax.
You mean Adam Schiff, who's still taken seriously?
Promoted that. They promoted that in mainstream media. They promoted that. Politicians promoted it. They called him a Russian asset.
Listen, Adam Schiff, he was the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Is that what it is? Adam Schiff knew. He never saw any evidence that Trump was in collusion with the Russians, or that the Russians were interfering in American elections, or that whatever. Or that there may have been evidence of that, but there was no evidence that Russia and Trump were in collusion. And he kept saying it. He kept saying it on every news outlet he could. That's a fact. And he knew otherwise. And no one's held him to task for that. That was a lie to the American people. It just was. And that's what I have a problem with.
And there's been no acknowledgement, like in mainstream media, that was a hoax and that he was innocent of what they were accusing him of.
None.
That is so wild. And they go from that to new accusations. So for the casual, for the person that's not doing a deep dive on all these stories and reading all these articles, what you're getting is the narrative that you see in headlines. Trump indicted again. Trump's a criminal. Trump did this. Trump, incited people to enter the Capitol on January 6th because he said the election was rigged.
And all this trouble that Biden is in now and his son is in was all on Hunter Biden's laptop. Yeah. And we were told that there was nothing to see there.
Didn't 51 members of intelligence agencies signed off on that? It was Russian disinformation.
There you go. So what does that do about that? My problem with all of this is that it just destroys credibility.
Yeah.
It destroys people's faith in the
What you said earlier is perfect. It's un-American.
Yeah.
It really is. And I know you're doing it because you think you want to beat this guy by any means necessary, but you're becoming a tyrant.
You're setting up a system that's going to be used against you too.
100%. And it's also setting a precedent of things that we allow.
Yeah.
And no one seems to care because it's Trump. Because it's Trump, he's like a non-human to them. Like all the rules of empathy and dignity and the most charitable view of things never apply.
That's right.
It's like the worst examples of anything that he's ever said or anything he's ever done, and that's all he is.
Well, and
if you say, even if you say that, you're a Trump apologist. But like you got to look at what is going on. There's a massive movement to keep this guy from being president again, and some of it you don't want to see happening in a democratic society.
No. My worry is that, I really do think legacy media, a lot of these people come from the same colleges, the same area codes. They do see the world differently than most of us who are out there trying to build a life.
Isn't that wild?
It is wild.
That they somehow or another are supposedly representing the frequency of the country, but they're so off. Yeah. And they think they're superior because they're very educated.
Yeah.
And because they're indoctrinated into this progressive ideology, and they think that there's a mandate to not just exist and do your thing, but to change the world and mold it into these ideas that you were indoctrinated with in school.
Yeah, and there becomes this lateral cooperation with the powers that be. And so they can very easily highlight one story and suppress another, or just not report on another. And when you walk into a newsroom and you're somebody who's looking to speak truth to power and be part of the way the fourth estate should really work, which used to be that journalists were all blue-collar guys and gals who hit the pavement, now you've got people that agree with the idea, for example, that maybe people who are in power with this education know a little bit more than the people that are actually out, the fly-by states. That great, I can't remember who said it. It might have been William F. Buckley who said, you have to understand that would you rather be ruled by the Harvard faculty or the first 2,000 names in the Boston phone book? If you believe in democracy, you've got to say the first 2,000 names in the Boston phone book. It sounds very enticing to get the Harvard faculty. They're smart as shit. They know what's best for all of us. Let the philosopher kings run it. But that's not how our grand experiment works. And I think this is the greatest country in the world because it always pushes the ideal and the idea that the individual should always supersede the collective, that the collective will always become a tyranny. And you as an individual have certain inalienable rights that can't be taken away from you no matter which way the wind blows and no matter how strong the collective is. That's such an important distinction. It is the fundamental distinction between being somebody who's for free markets and democracy and somebody who's a socialist. That's why I think socialism is way more dangerous. All these young people have a favorable view of socialism. No, I'm sorry. Now you have a top-down authority that believes in orchestrating and socially engineering equality at all costs, which means we got to keep the people that are really excelling. You got to keep them down a little bit. That's why you have Congress people saying things like in California, "Fuck Elon Musk." They say stuff like that to a guy who creates that many jobs and is that innovative and that much of a risk taker. And that's what I worry about.